Have you ever flipped a switch and the light just didn't turn on? It's a moment of minor panic, right? But what if I told you that moment could become a lot more common and a lot more serious? What if our entire way of life, which runs on electricity, is built on a system that's becoming dangerously outdated? Today, we read diving deep into the American power grid and exploring why this incredible feat of engineering is struggling to keep up with the 21st century. Think about it, the power grid is the largest machine on Earth. It's a sprawling, interconnected network of power plants, transmission lines, and substations that keeps our homes lit, our phones charged, and our industries running. Much of it was built in the post-World War II era, a testament to the ambition of that time. But that was over 70 years ago. The world has changed dramatically, but in many ways, our grid hasn't. It's like trying to run the latest smartphone on a dial-up modem. It just wasn't designed for what we're throwing at it today. So, what are the big challenges? First up, extreme weather. Climate change isn't just a future problem. It's happening right now, and the grid is on the front lines. We've seen it with the devastating wildfires in California, the crippling ice storms in Texas, and the powerful hurricanes battering the East Coast. These aren't just isolated incidents, they are becoming more frequent and more intense. High wind snap power lines, ice builds up and brings down towers, and extreme heat causes equipment to overheat and fail. Our grid was built for the climate of the past, not the volatile climate of today. When a major storm hits, it can knock out power for millions of people for days or even weeks, causing massive economic disruption and threatening public safety. Then there's the demand side of the equation. Our appetite for electricity is growing, and it's about to explode. Think about electric vehicles. We're all excited about the transition away from gasoline, but where do we think all that electricity is going to come from? Charging millions of EVs, especially during peak hours, will place an unprecedented strain on the local and regional grid. It's not just about generating more power. It's about having the wires and transformers capable of delivering it to every home charging port without overloading the system. And it's not just cars, we're electrifying everything. More and more homes are switching to electric heat pumps for heating and cooling, and electric stoves for cooking. On top of that, our digital lives demand constant power. The massive data centers that power the internet, artificial intelligence, and cryptocurrency mining are incredibly energy intensive. These server farms are popping up all over the country, and each one can consume as much electricity as a small city. All of this new demand is being added to a system that, in many places, is already stretched to its limit. Another huge challenge is the shift to renewable energy. Now, don't get me wrong, moving to solar and wind power is absolutely essential for our planet. It's the future, but these energy sources are fundamentally different from the fossil fuel plants the grid was designed around. Coal and natural gas plants can generate a steady, predictable amount of power 24/7. You can ramp them up or down as needed. Solar and wind, however, are intermittent. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. This creates a major balancing act for grid operators. How do you keep the lights on when a cloud bank moves over a massive solar farm, or when the wind suddenly dies down? You need a grid that is smarter, more flexible, and has ways to store energy. Right now, our grid is mostly a one-way street. Power flows from large, centralized plants out to consumers. The grid of the future needs to be a dynamic, two-way network. It needs to be able to handle power coming from millions of rooftop solar panels, store excess solar energy in giant batteries to use at night, and intelligently manage demand to match the available supply. Our current infrastructure just wasn't built for that kind of complexity. Let's also talk about the physical state of the grid. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of miles of high-voltage transmission lines and millions of miles of local distribution wires. A lot of this equipment is old, very old. Some transformers in use today were installed back in the 1960s and are well past their expected lifespan. Aging equipment is less efficient, more prone to failure, and harder to repair. When a large, critical transformer fails, it can't just be picked up at the local hardware store. These are custom-built, multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment that can take months or even over a year to manufacture and replace. A shortage of these key components is a huge vulnerability, and we can't ignore the threat of physical and cyber attacks. A centralized grid with critical choke points is a tempting target for those who wish to cause chaos. We've already seen coordinated physical attacks on substations and the threat of a sophisticated cyber attack that could shut down a large portion of the grid is something that keeps security experts up at night. A more decentralized, modern grid would be more resilient to these kinds of threats. So with all these problems, are we doomed to a future of rolling blackouts? Not necessarily, but it requires a massive, coordinated effort to modernize our grid. This is an investment on the scale of the interstate highway system. We're talking about trillions of dollars, so what does this modernization look like? It means building out a new network of high-voltage transmission lines, especially long-distance lines that can carry renewable energy from the sunny southwest and windy plains to the big cities where it is needed most. This is a huge political and logistical challenge, as these lines have to cross state lines and private land. It also means investing in smart grid technology. This involves deploying sensors, smart meters, and advanced software that can monitor the grid in real time, anticipate problems, and automatically reroute power to prevent outages. A smarter grid can also better integrate renewables and even communicate with your smart appliances, like your EV charger or your water heater, to use electricity when it's cheapest and most abundant. And critically, it means investing in energy storage. Grid-scale batteries are the missing piece of the puzzle for renewables. They can store the cheap solar power generated during the day and release it during the evening peak, smoothing out the intermittency and making the grid more stable and reliable. The good news is, this transformation is starting to happen. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act have allocated tens of billions of dollars to grid modernization and clean energy. Utility companies are investing in upgrades, and new technologies are making the grid smarter and more resilient every day. But the scale of the challenge is immense, and we are in a race against time. The future of our economy, our security, and our ability to combat climate change all depends on having a power grid that is ready for the future. It's not the most glamorous topic, but the wires and transformers that make up our electrical system are the bedrock of modern society. Ensuring they are robust, reliable, and clean is one of the most important tasks of our generation. So the next time you flip a switch and the light comes on, take a moment to appreciate the incredible, complex system that makes it possible. And let's hope we have the foresight and the will to build the grid of tomorrow before the lights go out on the grid of yesterday. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the technologies that shape our world. Let me know in the comments what you think. What is the biggest challenge facing the grid in your area? See you in the next one.